What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here for PackersNews.com. Late Thursday afternoon. Another quiet day on the Packers news front, but that doesn't mean there's nothing to talk about. As usual, we'll chat it up about the state of the Packers, whatever's on your mind, getting ready for the Combine. Still working on getting a handle on some of these draft prospects. I'll be better versed in probably about the time I touch down in Indianapolis. But free agency's coming up. Lots of things moving and shaking there. Lots of headlines about Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb. I don't doubt I'll get a question or two about those gentlemen. But I see everyone's filling up here. Sean, hello. How's it going? John Rayhorse here, everyone. So mind your P's and Q's. Hey, Matthew. How are you? Myrtle Beach. Andy, what is up in Myrtle Beach? Man, I haven't been to Myrtle Beach in years, but we used to go there when I was a kid. On spring break, and man, those are some times. Joan, hello. Ray Hoare, thanks for checking in. Wendy, how are you? Luke, Kevin King, how big of a year to jump? Will he ever be a top 5 NFL corner? I mean, that's crystal ball time, man. I can't give you a proclamation of yes, he will be a top 5 corner. But I do believe if he remains healthy, he should be a very good starting cornerback. How much of a jump does he take in year 2? I think it'll be significant enough that Mike Patton will be able to do some stuff by allowing him to play one-on-one coverage on the perimeter, freeing up the safety on that side to get creative. Now, obviously, it's easy to say this. He's got to put in the work. He's got to do it. He's got to be in there grinding the tape from the moment they get back, if not sooner. It's entirely up to him. And that's the thing. We talk about it every year, that year 1 to year 2 jump and how guys sometimes make it, sometimes don't. A lot of it comes down to them. It comes down to their work ethic, their work habits, how much time they do put in the weight room and in the studying of the playbook, and now that they've got a whole new playbook to dive into, a lot of that's at Kevin King's fingertips. But if he is as ardent in his craft as I believe he is, he certainly appeared to be last year, I think he's set for a pretty decent sophomore campaign. What's the outlook on number of running backs on the 53-man roster? That's a decent question. We're sitting here in February. It's hard to say, what's going to look like on the 53-man roster come late August. But I tend to think you'll see Williams and Jones for sure. Montgomery, whatever you call him, whether that's a running back or a wide receiver, I think he'll still be on the roster. And then I think Mays has got to earn it. Devontae Mays clearly got in the doghouse with those 2 fumbles right out of the gate in that Baltimore game. But Mike McCarthy has talked him up. Now, McCarthy has talked to guys before, and then they've been released, so it doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. But it's clearly likes him, and he wants him to have that chance, and I believe he'll have it this summer. Outside of that, there was a back, I can't remember the name right now, that they picked up really late in the year, who had been with the Bears, who was pretty intriguing, and I'm interested to see him this summer, but if he lasts till then. But I tend to think you'll see those 2 backs with Montgomery, and then they'll probably keep a fullback, and that'll be it. But a whole lot has to play out between now and then. Never understood getting rid of John Kuhn. Filled quite a nice role. Alex, I hear you. And he played well that first year in New Orleans. But you can see he's been in and out of the lineup down in New Orleans for this past year. He's getting close to the end. It's always better to get out from under a guy or let a guy go a year early rather than a year too late. And Ripkowski has been fine in that fullback role, although probably not the excellent pass protector that Kuhn was. But he added a lot 2 years ago. Last year he had a bit of a dip. They didn't use him as much, and I don't think he was as dependable a lead blocker as we had seen in the past, which is why I think leaves open a competition between him and Joe Carriage this summer. Derek Johnson, a good fit. Nick, I get this question a lot. It's really hard to know without having seen how Gutekunst is going to operate. It's just going to be it's just guesswork as far as I think he would fit in the defense. I don't know if Gutekunst is going to feel it necessary to go out and get an aged veteran for his defense. I tend to think those free agency dollars will be earmarked for a cornerback more than an inside linebacker. But I definitely think he would help. The problem is he probably would have helped a whole heck of a lot more 5 years ago. Now he's definitely nearing the end. Now that said, he can still play. There's no doubt about that. Maybe they call and see if he's interested in a 1-year deal, veteran minimum free agent thing. But the problem is I'm pretty sure he'll get a decent contract, a number of decent contract offers out in the market. So I would be surprised if the Packers went that route, but that doesn't mean it's not a possibility. Who's the one player in the draft you'd trade up to get? Ooh, Andrew, good question. Man, I don't know. There's not. Maybe the guard from Notre Dame, but you're not trading up for a guard. But that guy is nasty, and I was watching his tape today, and he's something special. But sitting at 14, and with all the quarterbacks that are going to go, there's going to be a lot of talent dropping to the Packers, or at least dropping just in front of the Packers, which should enable them to maybe try to move up a couple spots if there's someone they really love, they see dropping. Maybe a Fitzpatrick. He'd be a guy I could see if he dropped to 10, 11, 12. Maybe the Packers try and make a move to get up and get him. But, yeah, again, without a history from Gutekunst to draw from, it's hard to say what they would do. But I think those two guys would warrant jumping up. But it all depends on how far you're talking. I mean, I don't see anybody I would jump up into the top 5 for from 14, because you'd have to send a whole heck of a lot, pick package wise, and I don't see the Packers doing that. They have quite a few holes they need to fill, and they're going to need those picks. Which edge rusher would you take? I really like Harold Landry. I know a lot of people have been high on Davenport. I'm really up and down on Davenport, so I don't know. I still got to watch a lot more tape, but obviously Chubb is the belle of the ball, but there's little to no chance the Packers have a shot at him. Do you think we can target Malcolm Butler? Alan, I think they could. I think they will reach out, but I also think he's going to get paid big money, and I don't see the Packers going hog wild. I don't see them signing somebody that first day of free agency, and I think that's when Malcolm Butler is going to get signed. I tend to think they'll sit out the stupid money portion of free agency. Maybe be a little more aggressive than we're used to that second, third day, but I think Malcolm Butler is going to be priced out of their comfort zone. I think Nelson and Cobb should be restructured. Bruce, you and about 4 billion of your closest friends, according to my Twitter feed. I get it. I think Nelson has said he's open to restructuring, and I think that will probably happen. Cobb's a little trickier, I think. I mean, I know people are calling for the Packers to just cut him outright. I don't think that makes any sense whatsoever. I think he's a much better player than fans and some media give him credit for. I know the production is down, but that is much more a product of the offense he's in and the quarterbacks he's played with than it is anything he has done. There's plenty of tape of him getting open and not getting the ball. There's plenty of tape of him making plays when the ball has gone his way. I just don't think you get better by cutting good football players, and Randall Cobb is still a good football player. Would Eric Ebron be worth a look if released? I think so. He's obviously been really inconsistent in Detroit, and he did have his best year as a pro this past year, but you're always kind of hesitant when a guy has his best year in a contract year. How much of that is him progressing? How much of that is him just buttoning it all up because it's a contract year? Worst case scenario, yeah, the guy balled out in Detroit, even at his quote unquote, height, still wasn't exactly a difference maker. And then you bring him in when you pay him on the free agent market, and then he not shuts it down, but he's not nearly the player you saw in that last year. Now, of course, on the opposite end of the spectrum, there's someone like Micah Hyde, who continually improved his last year in Green Bay prior to hitting free agency and played even better in Buffalo. So, there's pros and cons, and there's risk and reward. I think Ebron would be worth a look. There's no doubt about that. I don't know what the Packers would be willing to pay, but I think he's someone they should definitely call if he's on the market. Father Ken, what's up, man? Draft Lamar for backup QB. I tell you what, I love that idea. I absolutely love that idea. I think that kid, if he could sit in Green Bay for a few years behind Aaron Rodgers, they could have something special. I love him as a prospect. And I think the one worry I have is Mike McCarthy's pretty clear either inability or refusal to mold his offense around what Brett Hundley could do with his legs last year. It just makes you wonder if, Lamar Jackson came into Green Bay, how much is McCarthy going to get creative with him? I mean, you've seen what Andy Reid has done in Kansas City and in Philadelphia with a number of different quarterbacks. Can McCarthy get that creative? Because I haven't seen any evidence of it. And I think to get Lamar Jackson's top potential, you should have a pretty creative offensive mind. But that said, I think the kid's got a bundle of talent, and that would be a perfect example of someone that I think would, if he's there in the second round, I absolutely wouldn't hesitate to pull the trigger. And I know fans are going to howl and squeal about it, but I mean, you saw how things absolutely fell apart when they had a very limited player as far as raw talent goes when it comes to Brett Hundley. Sometimes you're going to need that in your backup because you're not going to be polished. You're not going to be molded as an offense around your backup. So bring in a guy who can make stuff happen. Bring in a guy who's supremely talented athletically, and that is Lamar Jackson. No doubt about it. McCarthy won't be around in 2 to 3 years anyways. I know there are a lot of people who think that. It all depends on this season. He has pushed his chips into the table. He has had his mini power grab, and now he's got to produce. He's brought back some old friends and Joe Philbin and the like, and obviously he'll have Aaron Rodgers back, and he's going to circle the wagons. And if he wins big this year, he'll get a contract extension. You wait. Now that said, if they are 8-8, 9-7, even if they make, say, a wild card playoff run, but they're like ousted in the first week, I could see him. Yes, I could see him getting fired. But if they go in another deep postseason run, he'll get an extension, no doubt. Do you think they draft a wide receiver, Connor? I think if the value's there, I don't think they'll dismiss it out of hand. I doubt they do it in the first round, but they could. But that said, throughout the draft, I think you'll see a wide receiver taken. There's no doubt about that. You've got both Cobb and Nelson not only coming up at the end of their contracts, but Nelson definitely getting up there in age. You got to replenish this, that wide receiver position constantly. Something that Ted Thompson did very well throughout his 13 years is make sure that they always had talent at the position. So, you got McCarthy and those multiple wide receiver sets. You got to do it. You got to keep churning them out. So I do think you'll see somebody. I don't know if it's early or late or when, but I would be very surprised if they didn't take at least one wide receiver. Do you think McCarthy needs to swing for the fences? No more so than he usually does. Packer fans, I guess, don't realize it, but McCarthy is one of the most aggressive coaches in the NFL. Everyone talks about his conservative nature or all that nonsense, and it's every year it comes. Like just last week, there was a study where as far as fourth down calls go and aggressive in fourth and whatever situations, McCarthy was, I think, the second or third most aggressive play caller in the league. I get why he gets a bad rap as being quote unquote too conservative, but that guy, he's as aggressive as they come. So I don't think he needs to be more so. But he's got to win, and he's got to win big, no doubt about it. Do you think we get a third round compensatory pick, Andrew? I haven't really gone over the comp pick list yet because we'll get the actual list in like a week and a half. So. Obviously, I know it's kind of like the night before Christmas. You just got to wait a little bit. I do think they'll get the fourth, but I don't know about a third. I think some of it will depend on Lang's contract, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Is Raji going to come back? There it is. Thoughts on the tough schedule this next season, Andy? I'm glad you asked. You can pay all that schedule talk and how the Packers have, quote unquote, the toughest schedule in the NFL heading into 2000. That is such bunk. And it means less than nothing. It means less than the pixels it's printed with on your computer. It's, if I had told you last year that, your team was going to play the Jaguars and the Eagles and I don't know, that you would say, oh, yeah, great, And if I told you were going to play the Packers and the Cowboys, oh, no, that's a tough schedule. You never, sitting here in February, we have no idea what teams are going to be. Last year's records mean next to nothing. So, will they have a hard schedule? The schedule is always hard. It's always tough. I know it sounds like a cliche and you get tired of players saying it all the time, but they say it because it's true. It is tough to win in the NFL. Every week is tough. Might they have a few more teams, more quality teams, 2 or 3 more quality kind of games on their schedule? Yeah, it's possible. But it's way too early to have any kind of, even begin to approach talking about how tough their schedule is until we at least see how teams go about constructing themselves. And even then, teams, that look tough early in September can fall apart and be pushovers by November. It happens every year in the NFL. So when you see that talk of the tough schedule, you can dismiss it for the time being. Kathy, we talked about Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb a little while ago. I don't think they'll release them. I think they will restructure one or both of their deals. But I suspect they'll both be back next year. Now, as I say that, of course, there probably going to be some breaking news as I'm talking saying they've released both of them because Nagler's never right. But I suspect they'll both be back on new contracts or extensions. Packers should find a way to get Travis Benjamin. Evan, I like that idea. He's got some speed. There's no doubt about it, and that's something they desperately need. Sorry, guys, I'm getting some texts here. Okay. I'll take 1 or 2 more. If 12 gets a deal before Breeze, does 12 become second highest paid quickly after? That's an interesting thought. I tend to doubt it, just because I don't think Breeze's reps could legitimately look at Rodgers' deal and say the older guy who's much closer to retirement should be paid, a notch above Aaron Rodgers. I think Breeze gets done much sooner than Rodgers. I mean, Breeze is set to be a free agent, so and there's no such there's nothing driving the Packers and Rodgers to get anything done that soon. The Saints got to get it done in only about a month. So I'm pretty sure Breeze will sign before Rodgers does. Can you please answer Donnie? What was Donnie's question? I missed it. Chet, that's very nice of you to say, although I suspect you're being sarcastic. Backup QB, they'll definitely bring some in. They'll undoubtedly going to have to bring at least a draft pick and probably a free agent to compete with Brett Hundley, but Hundley will probably be in the mix. Any thoughts on what happened to the decline of HaHa Clinton Dix? That is a great question. The thing is it wasn't really anything that we hadn't seen the year before. He went to the Pro Bowl, but the end of that Pro Bowl year, everyone kind of forgets he was already kind of sliding back. The Texans game onward in 2016, he really kind of regressed. And then he came back in 2017, and I thought, okay, he's going to reset and get back to that Pro Bowl level. And it never happened. He just kind of stuck in that spot of regression. And I don't know how ruthless Gutekunst is going to be, but that 5th-year option is only guaranteed for injury. They can cut him without any kind of cap repercussions. So I don't think that would happen, but if Gutekunst is, looking at that tape and sees a guy who just is not the answer at safety, maybe they part ways. Now, I highly doubt that happens, but, crazier things have happened in the NFL, no doubt. it was Capers' fault. Everything is Capers' fault. Alex leaves us with a perfect spot. Thanks a lot, everyone. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to your question, but make sure you're back tomorrow to wrap up the week. And in the meantime, make sure you hit PackersNews.com for all the latest on the green and gold. In the meantime, have a good night, everyone.